Our next story is about the fall of an icon. The automaker Nissan. It used to be everywhere at one point, in the Fast and Furious movies, in console games, and in magazines and toy sets. But now Nissan is on life support. The company may not survive beyond 2025.
Nissan is dying. They are in a panic. And in a desperate attempt, they are offering huge discounts on everything. But this isn't a bargain, it's a silent alarm that something is terribly wrong. Nissan's profits vanished almost overnight. The deep discounts, they're not saving the company. They're just a mask for a much larger problem. The real question is, can Nissan survive what's coming next? And will you be left asking, what went wrong? Stay with us, because what you're about to learn will forever change how you view automotive. The collapse of profit, how Nissan lost 99%. Not long ago, Nissan stood as a formidable competitor in the global automotive industry. Then came the financial meltdown that felt less like a slump and more like a detonation. In a matter of months, the company reported a devastating slide, losing nearly all of its profitability. Investors who had trusted the brand to deliver steady returns were left in disbelief, scanning line after line in quarterly reports that offered no solace. Operating costs ballooned, advertising budgets were slashed, and factories struggled to justify keeping production lines active when sales were on a free fall. This was not merely a routine earnings miss. It was a calamitous statement on the fragility of modern manufacturing, especially when a brand loses the crucial element of consumer enthusiasm. Managers began closing the door on once promising initiatives, shelving research that might have salvaged the situation, and imposing severe hiring freezes. Meanwhile, competition from rival automakers, some of which were more agile in pivoting toward electrification or advanced driver assistance technology, made Nissan's performance seem even more archaic. Industry insiders pointed to multiple red flags. The brand had overextended itself, trying to chase volume at the expense of quality. It had skimped on research and development for years, banking on a reputation that had once been formidable, but was now growing tarnished. Sales channels looked increasingly out of sync with changing consumer tastes. While other car makers capitalized on crossovers and hybrids, Nissan's lineup stagnated, stuck with outdated powertrains and designs that felt out of touch. This downward spiral ended in an almost unbelievable statistic: losing nearly 100% of profit in such a short window. The loudest warning was not heeded until it was too late. When a company slides this dramatically, it signals failures at multiple levels: executive leadership, brand direction, and an overall disconnect from the market's pulse. Nissan was left juggling massive overheads with evaporating revenue, a precarious situation that made it obvious how little could be done to stop the hemorrhaging overnight. Yet the financial implosion was only one side of the story. Hidden behind the balance sheets was an even more personal and devastating betrayal: the trust of loyal customers. Now, before we break this down, take a moment to subscribe. You will be really helping us. Thanks. When the trust broke, CVT, and the customer exodus, so many families have counted on Nissan's sensible reliability. The brand's sedans and sport utility vehicles were often the default for those seeking dependable and affordable transportation. Then the continuously variable transmission issue surfaced, and that trust shattered. These transmissions, once marketed as a key innovation that promised smoother rides and better fuel efficiency, quickly earned a notorious reputation. Owners complained of jerky acceleration, strange whining sounds, and catastrophic breakdowns that appeared long before the odometer ever reached 6 figures. Some reported needing a total replacement of the continuously variable transmission only a few short years into ownership, incurring repair costs in the thousands. Disgruntled buyers flocked to social media platforms, sharing horror stories that dented Nissan's already wobbling image. Lawsuits emerged, targeting the automaker for allegedly brushing aside critical manufacturing defects. What began as scattered gripes snowballed into a full-scale backlash, reaching families who had never before questioned the brand's stability. Longtime customers who had purchased multiple Nissans found themselves feeling betrayed by the cavalier attitude toward this widespread mechanical flaw. Many owners felt the company skirted accountability, offering partial fixes that did little to restore confidence. That erosion of reliability carried profound consequences. Once a carmaker loses its reputation for basic dependability, every new model launch is met with doubt. People who walked into showrooms remembered the viral videos of transmission stall or read the heated forum debates spelling out $1,000 repair nightmares. In an era where competitors kept refining their powertrains, Nissan's badge had become a gamble. the narrative shifted from loyalty to distrust, triggering a mass exodus to rival brands. That exodus directly contributed to the ballooning inventories and helped fuel those drastic price cuts. This might have been survivable if the rest of the company's structure held strong, but as consumers bailed, another pillar of Nissan's business was already buckling: the very dealers that once drove its expansion. Death of the dealer model. Nissan's dealership network had survived shifts in consumer preferences, economic downturns, and even internal corporate shakeups. However, this latest crisis proved far more crushing than anything seen before. When a significant percentage of dealers operate at a loss and a portion of them begin closing their doors, it is more than a bump in the road. It is a structural catastrophe. Profit margins in dealership operations are traditionally tight, but Nissan's predicament slashed them to unsustainable levels. Selling vehicles at or near cost might shift a few units in the short term, but it leaves retailers with bare-bones revenue to cover overhead, staff salaries, and essential service. In many regions, once thriving franchises found themselves with rows of unsold models they could not offload without incurring losses on every sale. The few profits they did manage to scrape by with often came from pre-owned trade-ins or service contracts, both of which rely on a steady flow of happy buyers. But with consumer sentiment in tatters, foot traffic dwindled further. In more than a few places, Nissan logos came down from facades as owners either consolidated multiple storefronts or abandoned the brand to invest in more profitable automotive franchises. The shockwave of these closures rippled out to local economies, where laid-off employees faced a challenging market. Town halls and local chambers of commerce began voicing concerns over vanishing automotive jobs. Municipalities that had granted tax breaks to attract Nissan dealerships saw potential losses in revenue. Meanwhile, corporate at Nissan tried to salvage the situation by encouraging more aggressive financing deals. But those measures often backfired, pulling margins even lower and sparking frustration among dealers who felt set up to fail. It became clear that the entire structure, reliant on turning a profit from steady consumer confidence, was breaking. If families doubted the brand's reliability, and if dealers no longer believed in the promise of fair profits, the real question emerged: how long can a massive organization like Nissan survive under these conditions? And if it fails, what ripple effects might follow? The answers are shaping the next chapter in the brand's turbulent story, one that will only grow more complicated as the global market shifts and new competitors eye the cracks in Nissan's armor. Fleet sales, the poison that hollowed Nissan out. Airport rentals are not a sign of consumer confidence. They are a stark warning that something has gone terribly wrong. Nissan, once a beacon of dependable family transportation, quietly shifted from building cars for enthusiastic, loyal consumers to churning out bulk orders for faceless corporate fleets. On the surface, fleet sales look like guaranteed business, steady volumes, and predictable revenue streams. But beneath that illusion lies a corrosive reality. Fleet buyers, rental car agencies, government bodies, and corporate fleets aren't motivated by brand loyalty or vehicle quality. Their loyalty lies solely in cost efficiency. As Nissan began leaning heavily into fleet deals, the connection that once linked the company to everyday drivers gradually evaporated. Cars once proudly parked in family driveways began appearing primarily in airport parking lots and corporate campuses, places devoid of emotional attachment. At first glance, large fleet orders provided a tempting safety net. Nissan dealerships watched as vehicles moved off their lots, offering an immediate relief from overflowing inventories. But beneath this deceptive comfort was a hidden erosion of brand value. Fleet vehicles flood the used car market, rapidly depreciating, cheapening the brand's image, and undermining consumer perception of value. The effects are severe and lasting. Potential buyers perceive fleet-heavy brands as cheap, disposable transportation rather than coveted long-term investments. Nissan became synonymous with the cars people drove when they had no other choice, rather than the cars they dreamed of owning. Worse yet, fleet dependency creates a feedback loop of distorted demand. Corporate bulk orders appear to confirm steady production level, encouraging factories to maintain or even increase output. But behind this mirage, real consumer interest quietly shrinks. With a heavy dependence on fleet sales, Nissan stopped truly listening to its individual customer. Their feedback, preferences, and dissatisfaction vanished into the noise of corporate transactions. This absence of authentic consumer dialogue steadily stripped Nissan of its ability to gauge real market trends, leading the company down a path of strategic blindness. Now here is the thing. Fleet sales were just the beginning of Nissan's internal unraveling. As Nissan buried itself in corporate sales report, innovation, the lifeblood of any automotive company, quietly ground to a halt. Innovation blackout. Why Nissan stopped moving forward. In an automotive decade defined by electrification, digital transformation, and rapid innovation, Nissan found itself inexplicably stuck in neutral. At the dawn of the electric era, Nissan proudly stood ahead of the pack. Its launch of the Nissan Leaf in 2010 signaled bold ambition, positioning the brand as a pioneer in mainstream electric vehicle adoption. Yet that visionary step soon faltered. While competitors sprinted ahead, introducing sleek hybrids, advanced plug-in, and cutting-edge electric vehicles, Nissan's innovation slowed to a trickle. Despite early promise, the Leaf languished. Updates were minimal, range increments insignificant, and its design remained painfully dated. Meanwhile, brands like Tesla surged ahead, capturing consumer imagination and defining the standard for electric performance and desirability. Hyundai and Kia debuted groundbreaking platforms such as the Hyundai Ioniq and Kia EV6, setting benchmarks Nissan seemingly had no intention of reaching. Even longtime rivals like Toyota aggressively integrated hybrid technology into their lineup, quickly making electrification standard across a broad spectrum of vehicles. Nissan's absence of hybrid and plug-in hybrid models, particularly in key markets such as North America and Europe, was glaring. Its most popular vehicles, the Rogue, Altima, and Sentra, remained locked into traditional internal combustion engines, while competitors modernized rapidly. The hybrid Rogue, eagerly anticipated by consumers, faced repeated delays and was ultimately postponed to a staggering 2027, nearly 2 decades after hybrid technology became mainstream. This innovation blackout wasn't simply technical hesitation. It was symptomatic of deeper organizational dysfunction. Within Nissan, a culture of risk aversion gradually replaced the bold ambition of its earlier days. Cost-cutting measures took priority over research and development. Engineers and product planners, once encouraged to push boundaries, found their ideas shelved and budgets slashed, with fleet sales providing just enough short-term revenue stability. Nissan's executive team felt less urgency to evolve, innovate, or adapt. The spirit of ambition that once defined Nissan's best years vanished, replaced by a pervasive sense of complacency and survival, which is a bit wild when you think about it. And if Nissan's innovation stall had cultural roots, those roots stretched even deeper, straight into a leadership void, left by the dramatic downfall of the company's most iconic figure. Haunted by Ghosn, the leadership vacuum that paralyzed a brand. Carlos Ghosn wasn't just Nissan's CEO, he was its architect, savior, and ultimately its greatest source of disruption. Ghosn had masterminded Nissan's revival in the early 2000s, forming the powerful Renault-Nissan alliance and returning Nissan to profitability through ruthless cost-cutting, efficiency gains, and strategic vision. But his reign ended in spectacular controversy and chaos. When Japanese authorities arrested Carlos Ghosn in 2018, on charges of financial misconduct, it set off a corporate earthquake. His shocking escape from house arrest, smuggled out of Japan in a musical equipment case, transformed him from an admired executive into an international fugitive overnight. Ghosn's arrest didn't merely cause embarrassment, it left Nissan reeling, headless, and vulnerable. In the wake of Ghosn's departure, Nissan's boardroom became a revolving door of uncertainty. Hiroto Saikawa, his immediate successor, resigned less than a year later amid scandal. Subsequent leaders struggled to establish credibility or strategic direction. The internal tension between Nissan and its alliance partner Renault intensified, creating paralysis and indecision at every corporate level. Executives spend more time managing political drama and corporate governance turmoil than they did strategizing for future products or market changes. With no strong visionary at the helm, Nissan fell into a reactionary posture. Decisions were delayed, innovation halted, and the brand's once clear identity dissolved into confusion and stagnation. The lack of clear leadership, strategic clarity, and forward momentum left Nissan drifting aimlessly, unable to respond decisively to mounting competitive threats or market shift. Arguably the most devastating consequence of Nissan's leadership vacuum emerged in the form of a slow, painful unraveling of its core brand identity, an erosion that struck at the heart of everything the company once stood for. The lost brand. Nissan's identity crisis. Ask 5 different consumers what Nissan represents, and you'll likely receive 5 wildly different answers. Once clearly defined by reliable affordability blended with innovative flair, Nissan now floats uncertainly between contradictory identities. Is it a tech innovator, budget-friendly transportation, or an aging relic? Walk through any Nissan dealership today, and the confusion is tangible. Vehicle lineups feel disconnected from each other, lacking a cohesive design language or clear positioning. Interiors are notoriously dated. Tech features are frequently behind competitor, and exterior designs oscillate unpredictably between conservative and unconventional, without ever capturing consumers' imagination. Compare this confusion with the sleek uniformity and clear market appeal of rivals like Hyundai, Toyota, or Tesla, and Nissan's struggle for identity becomes painfully apparent. This brand confusion isn't merely aesthetic, it fundamentally undermines Nissan's market appeal and consumer loyalty. Without a clear identity, Nissan struggles to attract new buyers or retain existing customers. Brand loyalty requires emotional engagement, trust, and clearly understood value, none of which Nissan currently inspires. Potential buyers, uncertain about what the brand stands for or promises, naturally gravitate toward rivals offering clearer, more compelling identity. Without emotional resonance, consistent vision, or competitive appeal, Nissan finds itself in a precarious position. The brand that once symbolized accessible innovation now risks becoming entirely irrelevant, overshadowed by clearer, more purposeful competitors. And unless Nissan decisively resolves this crisis of identity soon, confusion will inevitably lead to consumer abandonment, potentially spelling permanent collapse for a brand that once proudly defined the automotive landscape. The ARK plan. Desperate reinvention or delusional playbook? 7 brand new Nissan models in just 3 years sound promising, ambitious even. On paper, the Ambition, Renewal, and Knowledge Initiative, better known as the ARK plan, is meant to reinvigorate a brand limping desperately toward relevance. Nissan leadership has touted the strategy as revolutionary, a sweeping rollout of fully electrified vehicles and refreshed lineups, promising to restore Nissan's standing in the brutally competitive automotive marketplace. But peel back the shiny facade, and this ambitious agenda starts to look like less of a strategy and more like an urgent cry for survival. At the heart of Nissan's ambitious plan is electrification, underpinned by an enormous investment in advanced battery technology, solid-state cells, that Nissan claims will revolutionize the electric vehicle market. These batteries promise greater range, faster charging, and lower production costs compared to the lithium-ion packs dominating today's market. Yet beneath this promising surface lies a glaring problem. The production trials have barely begun, and mass market readiness isn't expected until 2028. Meanwhile, the competition has already surged ahead, delivering tangible, scalable battery solutions today, not promises 5 years down the road. Critics within the industry call ARK a frantic bid to regain lost ground, a desperate maneuver more about optics than substance. To them, this isn't innovation. It's Nissan staking everything on a technology that isn't ready, while neglecting the immediate need to fix their crumbling market position. When your rivals, like Toyota, Hyundai, and Tesla, already have firmly established footholds, announcing future technologies won't regain customer trust overnight. Nissan's history of broken promises and lackluster innovation casts doubt on whether customers even believe these claims anymore. Even more troubling is that this ambitious refresh isn't merely a choice. It's an existential necessity. With aging models cluttering dealership lots, and consumers increasingly wary of Nissan's reliability and quality, these 7 new models must be more than competent. They must be exceptional. But industry insiders already warn that Nissan's aggressive timetable for rolling out these new vehicles is risky at best and reckless at worst. Any delay, miscalculation, or quality issue could transform this last stand into Nissan's final downfall. So the question becomes unavoidable. Is the ARK plan a genuine rebirth strategy, or simply a smoke and mirrors illusion designed to stave off investor panic? Nissan's recent history provides few assurances. While executives publicly celebrate the promise of ARK, the cold truth is that without an immediate tangible impact, something Nissan has struggled to deliver in recent memory, the plan risks becoming a costly, headline-grabbing distraction. from deeper structural problems that still haunt the automaker. As Nissan scrambles to reinvent itself through an ambitious promise, another desperate tactic emerges, equally fraught with peril. Selling vehicles at prices so low, each sale only deepens the financial wound. Selling at a loss, the death spiral strategy. In a stable industry, a discount can stimulate customer excitement and build loyalty. But Nissan's aggressive pricing strategy is far from normal. It's financial suicide. Today, Nissan dealers across America offer vehicles at discounts that exceed 15% of their invoice price, coupled with 0% financing stretched over an astonishing 60 months. Such pricing may draw attention, but there's a hidden disaster behind this facade. Dealerships routinely sell vehicles below their acquisition cost. These cuts might temporarily move inventory, but they shred dealership profit and damage Nissan's brand perception permanently. Every customer who buys a deeply discounted Nissan learns to associate the brand with bargain bin pricing. Raising prices back to profitability levels afterward becomes impossible without triggering fierce consumer backlash. This vicious cycle traps Nissan in a relentless downward spiral, bleeding resources without securing customer loyalty or brand credibility. According to dealership insiders, these deep discounts have decimated average net profits, plunging dealer margins by as much as 70%. Dealership owners openly lament that Nissan's corporate demands force them into an untenable situation. Either comply and lose money or refuse and face potential franchise penalties. Nissan's corporate headquarters, meanwhile, clings to this strategy, insisting that clearing out inventory, even at a substantial loss, is vital for making space on lots for new ARC vehicles. Yet, what Nissan leadership overlooks is that consumer expectations, once shaped, become unbreakable. Buyers drawn in by extreme discounts now believe those discounts are standard, permanently distorting their perception of value. The grim irony is that the very strategy intended to clear space for future success instead cripples that future, training customers to expect Nissan vehicles to cost far less than their true worth. This reckless approach is doing more than just bleeding Nissan's finances. It's tearing at the fabric of trust with its dealership partners, igniting the sparks of what could soon become a full-blown internal uprising, the dealer revolt. This isn't merely dissatisfaction. This is outright rebellion. Nissan dealerships across America, once loyal allies, now openly challenge the automaker's leadership. Franchisees are tired of being forced to shoulder corporate mismanagement and short-sighted pricing schemes. They demand change, loudly and unequivocally. The numbers paint a grim picture. Nearly 38% of Nissan dealerships are operating at a financial loss, a figure so alarming it has sparked unprecedented dealer backlash. Franchisees have sent angry letters to Nissan's corporate offices, drafted legal threats, and begun openly discussing severing ties altogether. Some dealers have already walked away, shuttering franchises that have been part of their communities for decades, choosing financial sanity over brand loyalty. Dealership owners and managers are vocally calling for Nissan to shrink the retail network by as much as 40%, demanding that Nissan finally align its production with genuine consumer demand. In major cities and small towns alike, dealer meetings have transformed from routine business discussions into heated debates over corporate accountability and financial viability. Yet Nissan corporate appears resistant, unable or unwilling to grasp the severity of the rebellion building beneath them. Instead, leadership continues to push aggressive sales quotas, heavy inventory allocation, and mandated discount programs, deepening dealer discontent. The mutiny is no longer whispered behind closed doors. It's an open revolt, shaking Nissan from within. Internal chaos is deepening. Franchisee tensions are boiling over. And now a new threat barrels into view, an avalanche of unsold inventory so massive that dealerships are flat out refusing shipments, inching Nissan toward yet another full-scale meltdown. The inventory time bomb. A dealership refusing vehicle shipments should be a wake-up call, a red flag signaling corporate disaster. Yet for Nissan, this scenario has become commonplace. The automaker's frantic production strategy has led to dealerships nationwide overflowing with unsold cars, trucks, and SUVs. With lots filled far beyond capacity, dealers have begun rejecting additional shipments, sending unwanted inventory back to warehouses or auction lots. These vehicles, many unsold for months, now choke logistics network, overflow onto auxiliary storage facilities, and pile up in corporate depots. The backlog has reached a crisis level, making it impossible for Nissan to launch its new ARK models effectively. Without available space, the much-hyped models designed to restore Nissan's image have nowhere to land. Moreover, this inventory glut isn't merely costly. It's strategically catastrophic. It echoes the painful lessons of pandemic-era overproduction, when Nissan dramatically miscalculated demand and was left scrambling to manage overflowing storage. Yet the company seems determined to repeat history, proving that building cars no one wants is financially ruinous, no less damaging than halting production entirely. Today, as Nissan prepares to roll out its ambitious new fleet of electrified vehicles, its dealerships remain gridlocked by past mistakes. Every unsold vehicle occupying a dealer lot represents a financial and strategic albatross around Nissan's neck, threatening to sabotage the brand's desperate comeback attempt. Far from a path to redemption, Nissan's reinvention strategy risks choking itself to death on the sins of its past. And as these combined crises deepen, the automaker now faces a stark choice: continue its frantic, failing tactics, or confront the sobering reality of a future slipping further and further from its grasp. EV price war and Nissan's missing in action. In a global battlefield where Tesla, BYD, and Hyundai are aggressively slashing prices, Nissan remains conspicuously absent. While competitors drive home the message of affordability and innovation, Nissan's delayed entry into the electric vehicle market has rendered it nearly invisible in the fray. Tesla has lowered prices to attract a broader customer base, and BYD is expanding its exports with relentless determination. Meanwhile, Hyundai has embraced a dual strategy by offering significant discounts along with a rapidly expanding lineup of electric vehicle models. This three-pronged assault on traditional pricing structures has left the marketplace in a state of transformation, forcing consumers to rethink what they expect from an electric vehicle. Nissan's hesitation to commit to a comprehensive electric vehicle strategy has had severe consequences. The company's late rollout of electric vehicles has not only diminished its market share, but also tarnished its reputation as a once innovative brand. Without the timely adoption of modern technology and cost-competitive pricing, Nissan is struggling to keep pace. The consumer, increasingly drawn to the dynamic offerings of its competitors, now views Nissan as an outdated player incapable of competing in an arena where efficiency and forward-thinking design are paramount. The impact is not confined solely to the balance sheets. The absence of Nissan from the electric vehicle price war sends a broader signal throughout the industry. It suggests that legacy automakers who delay technological evolution risk being left behind, their once powerful brands fading into obscurity. As consumers flock to brands that not only promise but deliver cutting-edge solutions at attractive prices, the consequences of Nissan's slow response become ever more apparent. And just when the market appears to settle into this new order, whispers emerge that this neglect may ultimately precipitate an irreversible shift in automotive leadership, leaving Nissan to grapple with a future defined by irrelevance. But I am only going to talk about that if you subscribe. Just do it. It only takes a moment. I will even wait. Thank you. Honda's secret plan, the merger that could save or swallow Nissan. Rumors of a strategic flirtation between Honda and Nissan have intensified as merger talks gain momentum. Behind closed boardroom doors, executives from both companies have engaged in delicate negotiations aimed at exploring a partnership that could redefine the future of Japanese automotive giants. Honda, known for its disciplined approach to quality and innovation, has long eyed Nissan's assets, particularly its established presence in the truck segment and its nascent experience in electric vehicle technology. Despite Nissan's long-standing reputation for engineering prowess, internal resistance and executive inertia have repeatedly stymied efforts to adopt radical change. In recent months, merger discussions have taken a more serious tone. While some senior Nissan leaders have shown reluctance to cede control, others have recognized that their company's survival might hinge on such a union. Honda's ambitions run deep. They envision a consolidated entity that leverages Nissan's manufacturing capabilities and electric vehicle expertise alongside Honda's strategic vision and market agility. This potential merger is not merely about sharing resources. It is a high-stakes gambit to secure a competitive edge in an industry where technological evolution and cost efficiency are paramount. For Honda, the prospect of absorbing elements of Nissan's operations represents both a lifeline and a strategic masterstroke. Their deeper ambitions include expanding into lucrative truck markets and establishing a stronger foothold in the electric vehicle arena. The prospect of a merger promises to redefine market dynamics, creating an automotive powerhouse capable of challenging global titans. Yet, the path forward is fraught with tension, as executive resistance and differing corporate cultures threaten to derail these talks at any moment. The boardrooms are abuzz with anticipation, each side weighing whether this alliance will be a salvation or an irreversible step toward corporate oblivion. Why China changed everything? The global stage has been irrevocably altered by China's meteoric rise in the automotive sector, and both Honda and Nissan are now forced to contend with this new reality. Chinese manufacturers, led by BYD and other emerging giants, have redefined the rules of the game with their aggressive pricing, cutting-edge electric vehicle innovations, and robust software integration. For Nissan, whose electric vehicle rollout was already tardy, the rapid advancements of Chinese competitors have exacerbated its challenges, leaving it even further adrift in a hyper-competitive market. In response, both Honda and Nissan have been compelled to reassess their strategic priorities. The merger talks, initially motivated by a desire to consolidate strengths, have now taken on a defensive urgency. It is no longer a question of whether to merge for mutual benefit, but whether such an alliance is necessary to survive the onslaught of Chinese dominance. The Chinese approach to integrating electric vehicle technology with sophisticated digital platforms has forced global competitors to accelerate their own innovation cycles. For Honda, a merger with Nissan may serve as a critical defensive maneuver to consolidate assets and protect market share. The strategic shift prompted by China's influence transcends mere competition. It is about redefining the very foundation of automotive success. The convergence of electric vehicle performance, sport utility vehicle innovation, and comprehensive software solutions has left traditional automakers scrambling to adapt. As Honda and Nissan navigate this turbulent terrain, the merger may emerge not only as a strategy for growth, but also as a vital bulwark against the relentless pressure of Chinese competitors. The stakes have never been higher, and the global implications of this shift are poised to resonate for years to come. Rebirth or oblivion, the final decision. In the final reckoning, the future of Nissan now hinges on a dramatic boardroom power reshuffle and a seismic realignment of stakeholder priority. Consumers, investors, and dealers are pulling in divergent directions, each group demanding radical change in an attempt to salvage what remains of a once revered brand. The boardrooms are now battlegrounds where competing visions for the company's future collide. On one side, there is a push for reinvention through technological and market innovation, while on the other, a conservative faction clings to familiar, albeit outdated, strategies. At the heart of this internal conflict lies a fundamental choice: to embrace a transformative merger with Honda, thereby injecting fresh capital, strategic vision, and operational discipline into Nissan's DNA, or to continue down a path that may ultimately lead to irrelevance. The decision is existential. For the consumer, this choice could mean the difference between accessing a revitalized brand that offers state-of-the-art electric vehicles and being left with a relic of the past. Investors are watching closely, aware that the outcome will dictate the future value and stability of their holdings. Dealers, long on the front lines of Nissan's retail network, are desperate for a resurgence that could restore the brand's credibility and profitability. As the final moments of this corporate drama unfold, the stakes could not be higher. In one scenario, Nissan undergoes a rebirth, emerging as a leaner, smarter, and electrified champion, capable of competing on a global scale. In the other, the company succumbs to the inexorable forces of market evolution, fading into obscurity as competitors seize the moment. The choice now lies in the hands of those at the very top, and the outcome will determine whether Nissan writes a story of triumphant reinvention or a cautionary tale of corporate decline. But what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.